So when people talk about, some of the biggest things that they do over when it comes to being in the apartment investment real estate business and owning your own apartments, there is really only, I'd say maybe two or three top ones, biggies. And I think it's interesting how, as time goes by and you reflect back on things, the way you see things now versus the way you used to, that this is not a surprise, especially the first couple, that I hear from people. And I'm guilty of it as well. And I think most people are when it comes to, owning your own apartments. And the big one is, and I hear it all the time, and as I said, I'm guilty of it too, is should have started out bigger. Okay, should have bit off more than I did when I started. So conventional wisdom is basically, hey, let's start with a duplex. Let's start with like a 4-unit, and we'll just build on up from there. And there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, I'm not criticizing that logic, because I was the same way. I mean, the very first property I purchased was on a lease option, and it was a single-family home. Not surprisingly, one of the worst investments I ever made, but it was a single-family home. And then I went from there, and then I went into a duplex, and then I went into a 4-plex, and then, it went from there. But, looking back on it, should have started with a 12-unit. Should have started with 24 units. Should have started with bigger. Because what you realize years later down the road is the foundation that you set for your success as an apartment investor and owner, that foundation is really responsible for speed and how quickly you can increase your holdings, increase your income, and increase your net worth. Really starts out with, not surprisingly, I mean, it makes sense, the bigger the property you can start out with, the faster that climb goes. Okay, so the smaller the property you start out with, the smaller the climb goes. So better that you start out with 8, 12, 24, 36 units at the start, even if you don't know much about management, even if you don't know much about the day-to-day, daily cares of life of owning an apartment, even if you don't really know much about it. You can't let the size of the project or the property intimidate you into thinking small. And it's hard to do. I'm guilty of it. I definitely was guilty of it. And I can tell you, almost to the investor that I work with, they would tell you the same thing, knowing what they know now. Okay? So I would say, don't start out small if you can. Start out larger. You'll be better off financially as a result, and that speed that you'll be able to gain and the momentum you'll be able to gain in terms of income and your net worth building will be so much faster.